There we go.
Okay, we should be. Okay, there we're starting to populate now. We'll just give it a few seconds and then we'll start. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to everyone. My name's Troy Lanigan, president of the Manning Center, but soon to be the Canada Strong and Free Network. We're officially making that transition on July 1st of this year. Our mission is to network Canada's conservative movement, and part of that is facilitating exchanges of policy issues and best practices to set up and to give movement leaders the best opportunity to have success. So last month we started 2 calls, exchange calls we refer to them as. One is on policy issues and one is on action. This month's policy issue call will be with Preston Manning on Thursday, and we'll be discussing content in his new book and how some of the issues he raises in that book relate to the COVID-19 circumstance that we are navigating and hopefully soon ending that navigation. And that's at Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll encourage you all to sign up and join us at that time. Today, of course, is our action call, and I am really, really pleased to have Lonnie Leitner join us. He is with American Majority, and he's out of Minneapolis. I first saw this presentation last year at Freedom Fest. So if you've ever had any doubt about the power of storytelling, about the power of good narratives, you absolutely will not have any doubt about that after seeing this presentation. In fact, and I've mentioned to Lonnie as well, that a bit of inspiration for one of my other projects I'm involved with, secondstreet.org, I encourage you all to check it out, is in fact storytelling and advancing public policy reform through telling stories and through strong narratives. There's not any Canadian content in this, but I assure you all that it applies to circumstances, the debates and other things that we're having in Canada. And I apologize, a lot of you did send in some questions and things you wanted me to raise. This presentation almost takes a full hour. That's rude. Joe, my cat's turning his back on you. I apologize for that. This presentation takes almost a full hour. So what we've done is we've put the chat on so that you can talk to each other and see each other's comments as the presentation goes on. And I will check in on the Q&A, and if there's time permits, or if Lonnie has a chance to look at it as we go, he'll try and address those things as well. So with that, thank you again, Lonnie, welcome. And I know we have a few other guests joining us from the United States, and we'd like to welcome them as well. So with that, Lonnie, I will turn it over to you and very much look forward to the next hour with you.
Sounds good. Troy, thank you for having me today, and thank you to the Manning Center. We've had this relationship for a couple of years now, and it's a great relationship, and hopefully we can learn some things from you, and you can learn a couple things from us. I'm coming to you from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Normally I would have a joke about Ilhan Omar or Al Franken or something, but given the fact that my city is still on fire and the Minneapolis City Council is in the process of defunding the police and getting rid of the police, I won't joke about it, but I hope everybody is in good health and good spirits. And again, thank you for joining. I work for American Majority. It's a AmericanMajority.org. Check out our website. Our mission is to identify and train a farm team of local candidates, of conservatives, and get them elected at the most local level. And we've been doing this since about 2008. But the goal of today's training is really to teach everybody on this Zoom meeting some bad manners, because quite honestly, those of us who are conservative or on the center right, we're just too damn polite. And what do I mean by that? You know, if you've ever been in a political discussion with a leftist, you've probably been called a sexist, a racist, a homophobe. You've probably been called anti-woman, anti-poor, and you've probably just kind of shrugged your shoulders and said, oh yeah, well, you know, you're liberal, or, you know, whatever. But we can't do that anymore. We have to fight fire with fire. For those of you who are boxing fans, Mike Tyson is famous for saying, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. So I'm here to help you guys come up with a plan. Here in America, I always feel like the conservative candidates facing off against the Democrat candidates, the liberal candidates, it's kind of like Bambi versus Godzilla. We just get plowed over. So this has to change. But before we can change, conservatives need to recognize a couple things when thinking about politics. The first thing, and I mean no disrespect by any of this, but we are not normal. Those of you on this call spending your lunch hour with me are not normal. Normal people are at work, studying with their kids, you know, doing real life things. So when I tell you you're not normal, we have to realize that when we're talking to normal people about politics, they're probably not paying anywhere as close of attention as we are. So just keep that in the back of your head. Another thing, I like to put voters, potential voters, into three categories. You've got your saints. They're with you 100%. So the saints are gonna vote for your candidate or your party 100% of the time. The sinners, they will never be with you no matter what. You could literally have the cure for COVID-19, cancer, whatever, they're not gonna be with you. So don't waste your time on them. But the savables, this is the third category of people. These are people that we need to work on to move to convert into the saint category. So I'm gonna just stop my video here, and everybody should see the Go for the Heart. And I was just gonna say, if Troy, if you're having any problems, just you know, interrupt, but everybody should see Go for the Heart. And conservatives, they need to stop talking like accountants and administrators, and they have to start speaking to the hearts of voters.
I won't go for the heart to sort of put in a formula, something that's simple, easy to understand, so you have to communicate in obviously in politics to enormous numbers of people, and they have to get it instantly, and everybody can understand that in order to fight the Democrats, you have to put their victims in their face every time you talk about a policy.
So for those of you who don't know, that is a conservative David Horowitz. He's an author. He was a radical leftist raised by card-carrying communists. And then in the 80s, he came out as a conservative. And I worked with David to build this presentation and a little pamphlet called Go for the Heart. David, as a leftist, knows how leftists think and how they operate. And so I've really been able to learn a lot. So that was David, and he kicks it off. So when it comes to mobilizing emotions, the left beat conservatives, and those on the center right appear unable to learn from their losses. Yet year after year, the left, they accuse the right of the same imaginary crimes. We kind of hinted at this. What are these crimes? Well, waging a war on women, not caring about minorities, inflicting pain on the poor to benefit the wealthy. And even though year after year, conservatives get attacked, they never have an effective response to neutralize these attacks. The left attacks the right as defenders and the party of the wealthy who are not paying their fair share. The right, conservatives, they respond by saying, stop the class warfare rhetoric. Well, this response does not answer the charge that the right are defending the wealthy and uncaring. How crucial is caring? Well, let me tell you, caring is the most important thing in any campaign. So in 2016, in the US presidential election, 65% of Asian Americans and 66% of Hispanic Americans cast their ballots for Hillary Clinton, even though these groups share many conservative values, are family-oriented, entrepreneurial, and traditional. These conventional people voted for Hillary because they were persuaded that Donald Trump didn't care for minorities. Well, the left's attack on the rich is an emotional appeal to those who are not rich. It tells them that someone cares about them. The right's response to the left's attacks, that's class warfare rhetoric. Well, think about it. Class warfare rhetoric, it has no human face, and it's just about a political style. When the right and conservatives try to use class war rhetoric against the left, it doesn't work because class warfare rhetoric, it's an abstraction. When the left, when liberals criticize the wealthy for not paying their fair share, it is a direct attack on an easily identified target, the wealthy. Even some progressive wealthy people, including entertainment figures, have been outraged by these attacks. They know exactly how much money in taxes they have to pay each year for the crime of having money. So what is the nature of elections? Well, elections are adversarial. They're about defeating opponents. Elections are necessarily about us and them. The left are as adept at framing them as the right are not. The left know how to incite envy and resentment, distrust, and fear, and they know how to direct these volatile emotions towards their conservative opponents. Meanwhile, the right, the conservatives, they're too busy complaining about the style of the left's argument. So, conservatives are defending the rich at your expense is the charge. And then they respond by saying progressives are employing class warfare rhetoric. Which argument is going to grab voters more effectively? Which is going to make voters believe the candidate cares about them? So in 2012, when Mitt Romney was the Republican candidate running against Barack Obama, CNN, the news network, did an exit poll. So people walked in to vote, and on their way out, somebody polled them, and they asked them, what is the most important candidate quality to your vote? And keep in mind, this is between Mitt Romney and President Barack Obama? Well, there were four options. Strong leader, shares your value, has a vision for the future, and cares about people. Well, let me tell you, over 54% of Americans who voted said that Mitt Romney was a strong leader. Over 54% who voted said Mitt Romney shares your values. And over 54% said that Mitt Romney had a vision for the future. However, you all know what happened. Mitt Romney got his butt kicked because when it came to cares about people, President Barack Obama kicked his butt by an 81 to 18%. And I don't expect you guys to remember or even know what the first attack against Mitt Romney was, but my little graphic here kind of gives it away. The Democrats and the left attacked Mitt Romney because he once went on a family road trip and he tied his dog, to the roof. And they had basically said, Mitt Romney hates puppies and he's a bad person. And we may all think that's crazy, but that was just the first. It was like a death of 1,000 cuts. And it all started by Mitt Romney didn't like dogs. So if you think about, 81 to 18% Barack Obama cared about people. Well, in 2016, Hillary Clinton was 25 points lower in the cares about people poll question than Obama had scored 4 years earlier, and she lost her election. So that kind of puts it in perspective. So what are some of the failures of campaigns of conservatives? Well, a lot of conservative campaigns, they're very administrative when their opponents are very combative. A lot of conservatives, they're all about policies, where their opponents are all about politics. Those on the center right, the conservatives, they're all about budgets and pie charts, where their opponents on the left are all about flesh and blood and victims of their opponents' policies. So caring is not one among many issues. It is the central issue of any campaign, caring. When the right does mention victims, they are frequently small business owners and other job creators. But if you think about that, those people, in the eyes of most Americans, are rich. So we may know that small business owners aren't rich, but in the eyes of, average people, they are rich. I'm going to show several examples. Again, I don't have any ones from Canada, but you'll get the picture. So this is an ad that Mitt Romney used in 2012.
If you've been successful, you didn't get there on your own. You didn't get there on your own. I'm always struck by people who think, well, it must be because I was just so smart. There are a lot of smart people out there. It must be because I worked harder than everybody else. Let me tell you something. If you got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
My father's hands didn't build this company. My hands didn't build this company. My son's hands aren't building this company. Did somebody else take out the loan on my father's house to finance the equipment? Did somebody else make payroll every week and figure out where it's coming from? President Obama, you're killing us out here. Through hard work and a little bit of luck, we built this business. Why are you demonizing us for it?
We are the solution, not the problem. It's time we had somebody who believes in us. Someone who believes that achievement should be rewarded, not punished.
We need somebody who believes in America.
The idea to say that Steve Jobs didn't build Apple, that Henry Ford didn't build Ford Motor, to say something like that is not just foolishness, it's insulting to every entrepreneur, every innovator in America, and it's wrong. President Obama attacked success, and therefore under President Obama we have less success, and I will change that.
So President Barack Obama gave Mitt Romney a Christmas present early by saying, that stupid saying of, if you've got a business, you didn't build that. However, leave it to Mitt Romney to completely swing and miss. So while the beginning part of that ad was effective, what wasn't effective? So think about it. Mitt Romney mentions Steve Jobs and Henry Ford. These men are viewed as billionaires and not struggling Americans or citizens. Mitt Romney should have talked about the women and men walking into small businesses throughout the country or doing the work on the factory floor so he could connect with those struggling citizens. However, he talks about, Steve Jobs and Henry Ford and basically whiffs and, President Obama got a free pass on a, pretty deadly slip of the tongue for him. So, conservatives, we're saying, look, this is a misunderstanding. Look at the facts. We're not that bad. That sounds defensive, whiny, and complicated. The right and the left, we got to remember, they approach politics with fundamentally different visions of what politics is all about. These visions color not only the way each side thinks about questions of policy, but how they enter the arena to face their opponents. So progressives and those on the left, they're no longer, at least in the United States, no longer the party of John F. Kennedy, not even the party of Hubert Humphrey. They are now a party led by socialists and progressives who are convinced that their policies are paving the way to a better world. Here's good old Ted Kennedy back in the day.
Robert Bork's America is a land in which women would be forced into back alley abortions, blacks would sit at segregated lunch counters, rogue police could break down citizens' doors in midnight raids, and school children could not be taught about evolution. Writers and artists would be censured at the whim of government.
So that's on the United States Senate floor. If Republicans, if the conservatives are in charge, you're going to have back alley abortions, segregated lunch counters, midnight raids, evolution wouldn't be taught in school. Conservatives, we don't speak with that language, but yet the left does it time and time again. So these visions of moral and social progress have profound consequences for the way the left conducts their political battles. Their goal is a new order of society. The left thinks of itself as social redeemers, people who are going to change the world. And it is the belief in a redemptive future that accounts for their passion and their furious personal assaults on those who stand in their way. When he was president, Bill Clinton once told Dick Morris, one of his advisors, that he had to understand that Bob Dole, a World War II wounded hero, also a moderate, is evil. And because of that, they had no problem in the 2012 election cycle running a television ad that essentially accuses Mitt Romney of killing a woman with cancer. And here's that ad.
I don't think Mitt Romney understands what he's done to people's lives by closing the plant. I don't think he realizes that people's lives completely changed. When Mitt Romney and Bain closed the plant, I lost my health care. And my family lost their health care. And a short time after that, my wife became ill. I don't know how long she was sick. And I think maybe she didn't say anything because she knew that we couldn't afford the insurance. And then one day she became ill, and I took her up to the Jackson County Hospital and admitted her for pneumonia, and that's when they found the cancer. And by then it was stage 4. There was nothing they could do for her. And she passed away in 22 days. I do not think Mitt Romney realizes what he's done to anyone. And furthermore, I do not think Mitt Romney is concerned.
Priorities USA Action is responsible for the content of this ad.
So when I started this presentation, I just pointed out that those of us that are on this call aren't normal. But think of a normal person who doesn't follow politics very closely and they see that ad 3 times a night while they're watching their television and having dinner. You know, they probably really would believe that Mitt Romney was just a terrible human being, if not the devil, who's heartless. Sadly, Mitt Romney didn't have a response to that ad, and he let it go unanswered. So the right and conservatives, they see the left as mistaken, where the left sees the right as enemies of the just and of the good. Talking about issues, the reason the Obama administration made Obamacare, our healthcare, their priority is because they are social missionaries whose goal is to fundamentally transform the United States of America, as Barack Obama warned 5 days before the 2008 election.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
Progressives are in politics to achieve social justice, to transform the system and the way Americans live.
I don't want a nation just for me. I want a nation for everybody.
You can't walk away and not feel hope and not feel that glimmer of light again.
I don't think I was ever this interested in the voting process.
It's the first time I've ever felt compelled to be part of a movement such as this.
I'm going to get them back involved in this process, the grassroots level first, and then let it go. That's going to make me happy.
So this glorious future, everything that the left does in every campaign they conduct is about mobilizing their political armies, as we just saw in that clip, to bring about this glorious future, about advancing its agenda one program and one candidate at a time. There's always urgency in everything they do. The vision of the glorious future puts urgency into their crusades and encourages them to hate their opponents. Progressives' hatred for conservatives is thus not a reaction to a particular issue or a particular slip of the tongue. It is a hatred for what conservatives are. If you think about it, conservatives are people who believe in limited government. By its very nature, limited government means the death of progressives' dreams. The right are reactionary and hateful because they stand in the way of a society that can and should care for every man, woman, and child from cradle to grave. In progressives' eyes, conservatives actually are anti-woman, anti-minority, and anti-poor. The right opposes the very idea that government should function as a social saver. Instead, the right takes a view of politics that is fundamentally different. The right, conservatives, they don't aspire to change the world. The right want to repair systems that are broken, typically not missionaries, and they are not selling a land of dreams. Such practical agendas do not inspire them to despise their opponents or regard them as evil. Conservatives think of their opponents as mistaken about how to fix particular problems. The right, conservatives hope for a future better than the present, but they are mindful that things could be even worse. But voters have already been told not to trust their arguments because they are the arguments of enemies of women, children, minorities, the middle class, and the poor. So the only way to confront the emotional campaign that the left wage in every election is through an equally emotionally campaign that puts the aggressors on defense. And you have to attack them in the same moral language, identifying them as the bad guys. Their policies are actually the oppressors of women, children, minority, and the middle class. This takes away from them the the high ground which they now occupy. So we all know this, but you cannot confront an emotionally based moral argument with intellectual analysis. Yet this is basically and almost exclusively what conservatives on the right do. So what is the winning strategy? I've got 3 points here. Number one, put the aggressors on defense. So put the aggressors on defense. Your opponents, put them on defense. And this one is so important. Put their victims in front of every argument and every policy. Put their victims in front of every argument and every policy. Troy shared a couple spots with me, and I was looking at it. So think about long wait times for healthcare and doctor's appointments. Again, the victims of those long wait times. Another example that it just kind of blow my mind, but trying to fight COVID-19 without oil. We've got the Green New Deal and the squad down here where they want to get rid of combustible engines in the next 12 years. So no cars, no airplanes. So again, we have the opportunity to put their victims in front of every argument and every policy and start the campaign now, because the left already has. They do this 365 days a year. It is a 24/7. So I want to talk about some of the weapons that we have when we're in politics in running campaigns. And the two biggest weapons are hope and fear. The weapons of political campaigns are images and sound bites designed to inspire the emotions of fear and hope. Barack Obama won the presidency in 2008 on a campaign of hope. And 4 years later, he won re-election in 2012 on a campaign of fear. So this probably doesn't make your guys' skin crawl as much as it does mine. But I'm going to show some hope from Barack Obama.
Because if we are willing to work for it and fight for it and believe in it, then I am absolutely certain that generations from now, we will be able to look back and tell our children that this was the moment when we began to provide care for the sick and good jobs to the jobless. This was the moment when the rise of the oceans began to slow and our planet began to heal. This was the moment when we ended the war and secured our nation and restored our image as the last best hope on earth. This was the moment, this was the time when we came together to remake this great nation so that it may always reflect our very best selves and our highest ideals. Thank you, Minnesota. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.
So yeah, that one always gets my blood pressure rising, but it was hopeful. This was the moment that they were going to provide care for the sick, give jobs to the jobless. This phrase is my favorite. The rise of the oceans are going to begin to slow and the planet is going to begin to heal because Barack Obama is president. So hope works, but fear is a much stronger and more compelling emotion. The left exploit this emotion to the hilt. However, the right, we're often too polite to ever use it. So here is a fearful ad. And again, think of the young woman that doesn't pay close attention to politics, but sees this TV commercial 2 to 3 times a night.
Only decades ago, women suffered through horrifying back alley abortions, or they used dangerous methods when they had no other recourse. So when the Republican Party launched an all-out assault on women's health, pushing bills to limit access to vital services, we had to ask, why is the GOP trying to send women back to the back alley?
MoveOn.org. Political action is responsible for the content.
The last image there was a coat hanger. And basically, if you are going to vote for Republicans and the Republicans take over, women are going to have to go to the back alley and, use a coat hanger to have an abortion. Again, it's a fearful ad, but yet very, very effective. So hope in politics is an appeal to the heart, not the head. To emotions, not reason. This is a very good, hopeful ad, and it's Ronald Reagan's re-election ad in 1984. And the reason that this hopeful ad is effective is because he puts faces on his successful policies. Take a look.
It's morning again in America. Today, more men and women will go to work than ever before in our country's history. With interest rates at about half the record highs of 1980, nearly 2,000 families today will buy new homes, more than at any time in the past 4 years. This afternoon, 6,500 young men and women will be married. And with inflation at less than half of what it was just 4 years ago, they can look forward with confidence to the future. It's morning again in America. And under the leadership of President Reagan, our country is prouder and stronger and better. Why would we ever want to return to where we were less than 4 short years ago?
So as I mentioned, why that was successful was because they literally put faces on their successful policies. So back in 2008, when Barack Obama was first elected, Hope was the first Black man running for president with a serious prospect of winning. All Barack Obama had to do to inspire hope was to be Black, speak standard English, and make this gesture, just honest and empty as it turned out to be, that promised to unite Americans and move the country past its racial divisions. So the story of the underdog in his triumph over odds. When the right uses the underdog narrative, it is mainly a story of opportunity, of Americans rising from humble origins. Condoleezza Rice, this is a good example, but let's watch and then digest.
And on a personal note, a little girl grows up in Jim Crow, Birmingham, the segregated city of the South where her parents can't take her to a movie theater or to a restaurant. But they have her absolutely convinced that even if she can't have a hamburger at the Woolworth's lunch counter, she could be President of the United States if she wanted to be, and she becomes the Secretary of State.
So this is a good story of hope. Heck, it's a great story of hope. And it was effective in the hands of speakers like Condoleezza Rice, but it is not very strong on promoting fear or in directing that fear towards political opponents in a way that maximizes its emotional impact. So the right's narrative, it's an abstraction. The left, they present themselves as champions of the powerless, the American underdogs. Their counter argument is that government is required to provide opportunity for those who lack it, whatever the tax rate so happens to be. The left's narrative, the private sector doesn't provide enough opportunity for those left behind, and government programs are necessary to fill in the gap. Progressives want to help people who need help. That is a powerful emotional appeal to all Americans, even to conservatives. So when progressives tell their underdog story, it is not an abstraction, but it's a powerful, polarizing, emotional a charged attack on their conservative opponents. Here's an example of just that.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, the Republicans are the real threat. They are the real threat to our women. They are the real threat to our children. They are the real threat to clean water, clean air, and the rich landscape of America. They are the real threat to fairness. They are the real threat to equality. The Republicans are the real threat to an enlightened Supreme Court, and don't you remember that? Don't you forget that?
So, I mean, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, that was at a Democrat National Convention. The Republicans are the real threat to our women. The Republicans are the real threat to our children, clean water, clean air, fairness and equality, and an enlightened Supreme Court. You know, no conservatives really in America talk like this. And why is that? So in algebra, you can say, I understand that, but in a great story, you say, I want to live like that. We lost the fact that reality is a story. So what is the bottom line? If the right wants to persuade women and minorities that they care about them, they have to stand up for them. They have to defend them. And they have to show them that the left are playing them for suckers, exploiting them, oppressing them, and profiting from their suffering. The left regards politics as a war conducted by other means. They seek to demonize and destroy their opponents as the enemies of progress, of social justice, and minority rights. The right can only counter these attacks by turning these socialist guns around, by exposing them as the enforcers of injustice, particularly to minorities and the poor, the exploiters of society's vulnerable, and the reactionary proponents of policies that have proven bankrupt and destructive all over the world. If you think about it, every major city in America, Chicago, Detroit, our nation's capital, New York, Los Angeles, Baltimore, they all have something in common. Well, they've got a few things in common, actually. They've got high crime, high unemployment, terrible schools, shootings. But what else do they have? They have been controlled by the left, by Democrats, and I'm not kidding you, for 50, 75 to 100 years. And yet it's the conservatives that don't care about minorities. So again, we're just wrapping up here. We got three things. The first thing that everybody has to do, we have to put the aggressors on the defense. Number two, put their victims in front of every argument and every policy, and start the campaign now, because the left already has. So I want to show how we've fast forwarded, or how we, in 2016, Donald Trump against Hillary Clinton. Keep in mind, on election day in the United States, Hillary Clinton had a 98% chance of winning, and we all know what happened. But I just want to share this. On election day 2016, according to Gallup, a polling company, Donald Trump had a 36% approval rating and a 61% unfavorable rating. This was the worst unfavorable rating in presidential polling history, but he won. And why did he win? Because finally, a Republican, a conservative, he's a fighter. Here's the very first Republican presidential primary debate. And you guys have probably seen this, but check it out here. So I share that, and hopefully you guys got a laugh out of that. If that question would have been asked of any other Republican running for president, they probably would have just packed up their campaign and walked off the stage. But Trump, he fought back, and he fought back by pivoting to his strong point, to his wheelhouse. You know, he said, look, I was joking, we were having fun, you know, but whatever. America is too damn politically correct. He went on to say that we are not winning anymore because China is eating our lunch. We're losing jobs to Mexico. And he fought back. And it was refreshing. So we always say here, the silent man and woman, you know, it was like you could just hear them cheer for the first time in a long time. This next clip is the second presidential debate with over 60 million Americans watching. And Trump calls out Hillary Clinton here.
We have a divided nation because people like her, and believe me, she has tremendous hate in her heart. And when she said deplorables, she meant it. And when she said irredeemable, they're irredeemable. You didn't mention that. But when she said they're irredeemable, to me, that might have been even worse.
She said some of them are irredeemable.
She's got tremendous hatred. And this country cannot take another 4 years of Barack Obama, and that's what you're getting with her.
So Hillary Clinton had called Trump supporters deplorable and irredeemable. And during that second presidential debate, Anderson Cooper from CNN, they weren't going to talk about it. And Trump forced them to talk about it and really had Hillary reeling. This next one, and we've got two more clips here. This next one is a local ad, and the woman that you're going to see, she's the victim. She's the victim. So remember, number 2 was put the victim's face in front of everything. And this is just a really powerful ad.
My name is Pat Moss, and I'm a victim of sexual assault. When my story of sexual assault came up on the House floor, Ron Earhart laughed it off. He laughed so uncontrollably, he couldn't finish the statement he was going to make. I don't know how Ron Earhart can look at himself in the mirror.
Yeah, powerful ad. But I want to leave you with this last one. It's played in our last Virginia's governor's race. Just look at the images, and very powerful.
Is this what Donald Trump and Ed Gillespie mean by the American dream? Latino Victory Fund paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
Alrighty, that was my last ad that I was going to share with everybody, but that is the conclusion of my presentation. Again, I would just really challenge everybody, look in your own backyard for policies and positions that the left has taken, and how you can, fight fire with fire against your liberal lefty opponents. And again, Troy, I just want to thank you and the Manning Center, and I really appreciate our friendship, and hope that we can be of service to you in the future. And please reach out to us and let us know how we can help you guys in the future. So thank you all so much, and have a great day. Stay safe and healthy. Bye now.
Thanks, Lonnie. Do you have a couple of minutes? We got a little bit of time here before the top of the hour.
Yep.
Okay. So I've been watching first of all, thank you for a great presentation. The whole point of having you on was to get people to think about how we communicate, how we message. And when I first saw this presentation, it was really powerful in that regard. So again, a lot of the examples are American, but as we can see from the comments that have been generated as well, people are already starting to think about these things. One of the things, and I look in the chat group, is immediately we on the conservative side tend to talk about our divisions rather than what unites us. And it's a little bit off topic from where you were, Lonnie, but I wonder if I might ask you, what are some of your thoughts around uniting conservatives in keeping with the theme of what you've talked about in order, because if we're divided, we can never win, obviously.
Yeah.
What are some of your thoughts along the themes and ideas you've talked about that can unite us as we move forward?
You know, a couple things. You know, let's see. We are, you know, conservatives, we're not collectivists by nature, you know, so it is a little bit harder for us, you know, to play nicely in the sandbox, I guess, with one another. But, you know, again, I'm not overly familiar with your politics, but like in America, if Nancy Pelosi, who is the leader of the Democrats in the House of Representatives, she's the Speaker of the House, if she woke up and said, the sun rises in the West, every Democrat, from dog catcher to former president of the United States, would be in lockstep with her saying that the sun rises in the West. Where Republicans and conservatives, you know, we kind of have a tendency to eat our own. And, you know, we've had the Republicans, you know, have lost huge pickup opportunities to pick up U.S. Senate seats in our United States Senate because of bitter primaries. And, you know, I guess I would just say that it all probably goes back to the issues on why, you know, we're involved in politics. You know, so it's why we're conservatives or, you know, on the center right. It's because we view the world in a certain way. You know, we have issues that are, you know, that motivate us. So I wouldn't lose sight of those issues, you know, depending if you're running for a, you know, a local school board seat to, you know, a higher, more federal office, and really rally around those issues. And I know I didn't really answer it, but kind of.
Oh. One of my old mentors from the US, Morton Blackwell, would often say, don't make the perfect the enemy of the good.
Yes.
So I remind our fellow conservatives of that all the time. How do you see the dynamic shaping up in terms of some of the themes you've talked about with the presidential race this year? Now with Biden in the spot, someone you didn't talk about on this presentation, but I know before you and I talked that you're planning to put some of his better known clips, of which there is a growing volume, on future presentations.
Yeah. Well, you know, first of all, I think I saw some of the clips or some of the statements out of the corner of my, you know, Donald Trump is not a conservative ideologue. You know, about 4 years ago, he was writing checks to every Democrat in Congress because it helped his business in New York. And, you know, so it is really a shame that the Democrats haven't, you know, wheeled and dealed with him in Congress on infrastructure and other things. You know, he has, you know, some conservative values, but he's not an ideologue like past Republicans have been. But it's helpful to have a boogeyman, if you will, in elections. And Hillary Clinton couldn't have been, I think she was probably the only person in the United States of America that could have lost that race to Donald Trump, and she did just that. It's going to be real fascinating to see if Joe Biden is that boogeyman. I really don't think he is. So Trump was able to win Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, and no Republican had won those states since the 80s. I'm sorry, like the mid 90s. And Biden might put some of that back in play. But Trump is a fighter, and he's going to take it to Biden. Biden has been in the United States Senate for so many years, and he has a record, and now he's going to try to run away from that record. And I think Trump will be able to aggressively go after Biden. And Trump calls him Sleepy Joe for a reason. You look at Joe, he's not all quite there. And so some of that Trumpism, as I call it, will come into this campaign. But Twitter, we didn't talk on social media much, but Trump goes around the media and he speaks directly to the American people. Sometimes you just want to pound your head against the wall and you're thinking, why? But he speaks right to the American people. And, FDR used to have his fireside chats where he would, talk through the radio to the American people. And Trump has Twitter. So I would really watch for President Trump to use social media and the digital targeting very effectively as well. Trump is he sells a brand. It's going to be an interesting dynamic. We're just waiting for Biden to pick a vice president. With all the turmoil with the cop killing George Floyd, Biden's getting a lot of pressure to pick. He's already said he's going to pick a woman, but now he's getting extreme pressure to pick a African-American woman. So Kamala Harris from California, and some, the people that he could potentially pick could lead to serious problems because they are very far left out of the mainstream. So it's going to be a nail biter, and probably come down to Wisconsin and Michigan. So
okay, we're respecting time. We're going to cut it off there. A few of you have been in the chat saying that there's not as many good examples from conservatives running good ads. What I recommend, I've seen this presentation a couple times. They don't stick in your mind as strong as some of the other ones do. If you go back and look again, you'll see clips of Condoleezza Rice speaking, Reagan ads, some of the local candidates that Lonnie talks about. Mitt Romney's ads weren't all bad. It's just that when he pivoted, he didn't do a good job of pivoting off them. Go back and look at some of that stuff. If you watch this again, you'll see more of that in the presentation the second time you look at it. Many of you have been asking me, is this going to be available? And the answer is yes, it will be. We'll upload it and we'll have it available. I know a lot of other people want to see it. We're getting great response from this, Lonnie. A lot of people, a lot of bravos, a lot of thumbs up. That's exactly what I'd hope would happen and get people thinking. I think we've done a good job of that today. So again, I want to thank you. I want to thank your donors and our other friends joining us from the United States today that came on with you. So again, thank you so much, and to all of you for participating. We're back again together on Thursday with Preston Manning and his new book at 1 p.m. Eastern time, and a notice will go out about that between now and then. So again, thank you all. Stay safe, and again, Lonnie, all the best to you. Bye for now.
Thank you, and good health, everybody. Bye now.